Hello and welcome to Veterans of the Valley. I'm Tom Turbyville. Gary Banta has lived in the Brazos Valley since 1982. He was born in Brownfield, Texas, grew up in Kansas, and after high school and working for a time, he joined the Army in 1967. That was well into the Vietnam War. That's where he both drove and rode shotgun on truck convoys, delivering supplies to the hotspots where choppers and aircraft could not land. Yes, it was a year tour that was quite dangerous, but he survived it without any serious wounds. He will talk to us about his time in Vietnam and then later his duty at Fort Knox, where he indeed saw the gold, and later as a chaplain's assistant in Germany. And he's here to talk proudly about the work of the American Legion Earl Graham Post 159, of which he is now the commander. Please welcome Gary Banta to Veterans of the Valley. Gary, it is a pleasure to have you here, and thank you for your service, and especially to the American Legion, which we're going to talk about a lot here in a little bit. But let's talk about sort of you were born in Texas, you grew up in Kansas, and it wasn't long after high school, after working for a while, that you decided to join the Army. Sort of talk about that transition from boyhood into the Army.
Well, I grew up in Coldwater, Kansas, and after high school moved back to Texas and went to work on a road job at Lake Meredith, up close to Borger. And it was awfully cold, and the Vietnam War was on, and at that time it had not become unpopular. So I felt like I wanted to go in the military, and so I joined and was sent to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri for basic training, and then on to other duties.
Yeah, you told me I guess you joined up in Amarillo, and while most of the people were sent to Fort Bliss where it was warm, you couldn't get out of the cold, right?
Yeah.
You were sent to Missouri.
I've been working in ice and cold up there in Amarillo, and thought I'd try to go to Bliss to get basic, and they sent me to Fort Leonard Wood.
Heavy vehicle operator, that's what you were trained in, but you never really did that until you got to Vietnam. And let's go ahead and talk about that, because we've got a lot to talk about today. April 1st, April Fool's Day of 1968 was the day that you went in country. Talk about your first tour of duty in Vietnam and being on a convoy and sort of what all that involved.
Okay, I landed at Cameron Bay. It was a reception center for incoming people coming to Vietnam, and there were a number of them, but that's where I went, and I stayed there for a day or two until I found out what unit I would be going to, and then went to Da Nang. And was assigned for a short period of time with an ordnance company, but I wasn't there but just a few weeks, and then on up into the northern part of Vietnam, into I Corps with the 1st Air Cavalry Division. 101st Airborne was there, 25th Armored Cavalry.
Right. This is in Phu Bai, northern part of Vietnam.
That's right. Phu Bai is a southern suburb of Hue, the Citadel City, and that battle had been going on and was just ending when I got there.
Right. And for the rest of your duty, you ran convoys. That was your job. I want you to talk about that a little bit more specifically. Talk about what that involved. You drove some, but mostly you would ride a shotgun with an M60. And so talk about the need for convoys, talk about the effect of convoys, what it did, and this brought on some pretty dicey situations for you.
Sure did. Convoys, the supply depot was at a place called Tan Mai. It was a deep water pier at the mouth of the Perfume River. The Perfume River runs through Hue, but at the mouth of that river is a deep water pier. And everything that came into Vietnam came in through that deep water pier.
All the supplies.
All kinds of supplies. Yeah. Every kind of thing you could imagine, all the way from bullets to biscuits. Whatever came in there. And I would say the majority of the time we were hauling just the everyday things of life.
Right.
Trying to provide even plywood and things like that. But during the times when it got really serious, we were hauling ammunition, powder, rockets, every kind of thing you can imagine, in support of these fire bases.
Right.
And that's where the bad part of my tour service. Not that was all of it, because we got mortared nearly every night, or rockets or something every night. But those convoys, where we would go out to Tan Mai and pick up those loads of ammunition or whatever we were taking inland, and those were usually night convoys run at night. And I don't know if you know how that works, but there are no lights.
Right.
all you have is on the rear of the vehicle in front of you are two triangles about the size of a dime. And when they light up red, that brakes are on. When they're white, he's running. And that's all you've got to look at.
Right.
And it's terrifying because in the middle of that, you're going to get shot at. I mean,
Right.
it's going to happen.
And the thing that you most feared is being stopped.
Stopped.
Because the VC would stop you by any means necessary, whether it would be roadside mine or grenade launcher or,
That's right.
or whatever. And
RPGs.
And that happened.
It did happen. It did happen. And generally you would dismount, you take your M60 off the truck, the driver and the gunner would get underneath the engine block of the truck. And we did that several times.
Right.
And prepared to defend the position.
Yeah.
You know, I guess probably not much different than what goes on, but we didn't see any IEDs.
Right.
There wasn't any of that.
Right. Now these were 5.5 ton trucks, right?
5-ton trucks. And we had in the convoys, especially those that were loaded with ammunition, we would have a 5-ton truck that had inch plate steel on it. And in the back of that was a quad 50. That's 4 50 caliber machine guns, electrically operated. There would be 3 of those in the convoy, then Jeeps that moved all through the convoy with 2 M60s on them. So we had a lot of firepower.
Right.
But sometimes you needed it.
Right.
You know.
August of 1968, you talked about one operation called Massachusetts Striker.
That's right. That was probably there were several weeks there that I don't even really remember. It was such a blur because it was 24 hours a day. We never stopped. I mean, you'd sleep where you could sleep, but we would run out to the Deepwater Pier, pick up ammunition, powder, and that was so dangerous carrying that powder because one tracer into a truckload of powder and that truck was gone.
Right.
And it did happen. Just didn't happen to me, but during Massachusetts Striker, the enemy in the Ashaw Valley were making a resurgence, and this is after Quezon and after the Tet Offensive in Hue. They were trying to recapture their stronghold in the Ashaw Valley. Massachusetts Striker was designed to beat them back. So we hauled ammunition to these fire bases, Birmingham, Bastogne, and Geronimo, and oftentimes they would fire the ammunition off the vehicles. I mean, they'd break the bands on 175, 155 howitzers and fire it right off the trucks. And it was pretty spectacular.
Right. And when you had to fire your weapon, that would light up and they'd know where you are. So
you didn't want to pull the trigger
on
a M60 until you had to.
Right.
And once you did that, they definitely knew where you were. The difference is our tracers were red and theirs were green, so you knew when they were coming. You knew you were being shot at for sure.
When you think about what you did and how often you ran these convoys and how you ran them and how often you did meet resistance, you were never wounded. You caught some shrapnel in the knee one time.
Yeah, one time,
and it was taken out. Just
a medic took it out.
A medic took it out. Never reported, so no Purple Heart. But you have to feel very blessed and very fortunate that you came back without a wound.
Yeah, I am. So many people didn't. I know many people that were hurt badly, and I know some that were killed. And there are some that were killed that I don't know that were killed. And, so it was a bad time.
I want to talk about the nature of this convoy again. You were telling me the other day that you were talking about Route 1, and it runs the entire length of Vietnam.
That's right, all the way from the Mekong Delta to the DMZ.
And eventually you quit running sort of convoy style because that's when you would get stopped and you'd run the trucks one at a time.
One at a time. And that would begin at Hue, going north toward Dong Ha.
Because the VC wouldn't waste on
they
one
were
truck,
less
right?
apt. They were less apt to try to stop one truck. They would shoot at you.
Right.
I mean, you'd be driving on Route 1 and you'd see the machine gun bullets striking the rice paddy coming toward you, and then they'd pass in front of you or hit your truck, or but you're just running wide open as fast as that truck would go.
Yeah, that's what I wanted you to talk about, because sometimes these convoys would be up to 20 trucks.
Yeah.
Right. And it wouldn't be like a slow-moving convoy.
No, we'd be flying.
You wouldn't catch the one in front of you, and the one behind you wouldn't catch you.
No.
You'd be flying to get from where you were to where you were going as fast as
you could roll it.
Yeah.
And sometimes that meant having to deal with Vietnamese vehicles. They would have these buses loaded with ducks and geese and 300 people.
Yeah.
And they get in, and it was always very dicey because you didn't want them stopping you or slowing you down. And if they tried to slow you down, or it appeared they were trying to slow you down, then it would make you think, you know, that they're trying to set me up. And there's been more than one Lombro bus get pushed off the road at 70 miles an hour, and I hope nobody got hurt, but
Right.
that's what they did, and that's what I did.
And these weren't paved highways, these were dirt roads,
No,
right?
Route 1 was completely paved.
Right.
And it's when you got off Route 1, then you begin to worry about mines. Because before, on Route 1, they couldn't mine an asphalted road. And the areas when they would repair them, in the mornings, engineers would run mine sweeps on that section while they were repairing the road, so you'd be safe on Route 1, as long as you're on that asphalt.
So the Ashaw Valley was pretty, it was pretty complete with mines. I mean, they were pretty much everywhere.
Once you passed into the Ashaw Valley, you were definitely in enemy territory.
I asked you the other day, were you afraid? And tell me what your answer was. You said you were afraid, but you weren't terrified.
I was afraid, but I was not terrified. I was young, and you know, I don't know. I guess I had confidence that I'd been trained well enough to do what I was supposed to do. That I just was not terrified. I was afraid. I mean, when mortars are falling around you, a man would be a fool to say that he wasn't afraid.
Yeah.
But I wasn't terrified, nor was I ever not able to think clearly.
Right. You talked about one time about going to get some bread and the convoy took off without you.
Yeah.
Tell us that story.
That was foolish.
Of them or you?
Of me. It was a really crazy thing I did. Vietnamese had these little carts, and they made bread. And we were in Hue waiting at a night convoy. And of course, I was hungry. I don't know if you've ever tried to live on sea rations, but you know, if you could get any kind of food, real food. So I saw this bread thing up the street, and it was, I don't know, not more than a block. And I had Fritz was his name. He was a new guy in the country, and he was driving the truck. I said, Fritz, stay right here. I'm gonna run up there and get some of that bread. And he said, oh, don't do that, Banta. And I said, yeah, I'm gonna go. So I took off. Well, I didn't get started good, and I hear them take off. I hear the trucks taking off. So I ran to this fella, and I got the bread and gave him some MPC, I don't know how much, whatever I gave him, and ran back. Well, the time I got back, the trucks were going around the corner, maybe 2 or 3 blocks down, going around the corner. Well, you don't just, and we had a heavy load, so you don't just take off real fast. So in a little bit, we're flying. And it's dark, we can't see anything, and you know, we're trying to look for these white triangles that'll be in front of us, right? Because there's no lights.
Right.
We're flying just as fast as we can go, and we passed the Catholic church. I think you'll show a picture of that Catholic church. We passed that Catholic church, and it's just shortly after you pass that is a bridge. And the Vietnamese were protecting that bridge. If you didn't guard the bridges, they'd just blow them up.
Yep.
So they had bunkers all around that bridge, and they had just pulled all the concertina wire back across the road. And we came around that corner, and there's all that concertina wire, and we hit it at about 70 miles an hour.
Oh my goodness.
And drug concertina wire. It took me days to get all that wire out of the axles of that truck, but we didn't stop.
You mentioned the picture, so let's go ahead and go to some photographs right now, as a matter of fact, because we've got some to look at that from your collection. The first picture is going to be of you just very soon after. There it is right there. This is pretty soon after you arrived in country.
Yeah, I hadn't been there more than maybe a week or 10 days at most. You see, I've got an M14, and it was pretty strange to get an M14, but that's what I was issued. But they shortly took those up and gave us M16s.
This is an M60?
Yeah, that's an M60. That's our perimeter at Phu Bai, looking toward the South China Sea. I don't know why I took that picture, or even if I did take that picture, but at nighttime, the direction that gun pointed was a fearful place, because you didn't know what was out there.
Okay. Talk about the rifle that you're holding.
That's a Chinese Shicom bolt-action 7.62 by 51 millimeter rifle with a bayonet. It's not even a semi-automatic. I don't know where I found it. I have no idea, but I found it. Had plans to bring it home, but somebody got it or took it away from me, or maybe I don't know what happened to it.
But you've got a picture of it.
I got a picture of
There
it.
you go. There you go. Talk about this picture. This is pretty fascinating.
Well, you see a bridge there. That's at An Lai. That's between Quan Tri and Hue. And they've blown up that bridge. The North Vietnamese blew it up. And so they're reconstructing it. The engineers are, and the Seabees. And so our convoys would go into the river and drive that river. And that's not as deep as it got. It would get up to where it would nearly be to the windows on those trucks, but the exhaust is up high enough that you could drive through there.
Right.
And you always had a raft of kids around you. They would disappear from everywhere, just like they do in any war, I think.
Sure.
And we'd feed them, give them candy or whatever we could give them. I had a group in Hue that I took care of for my tour over there that always, when I got a chance to get them something special, I got it.
Okay. This is a fantastic picture of
That's a fire base.
soldier.
That's a Marine fire base at called GLA. And this is an outpost that I'm at up on top of this mountain. And I'm on guard duty because that's what I'm doing up there. I'm going up for guard duty, and it's going to get night. And our job is to protect the men that are sleeping down there in those hooches that you see.
Right.
My hooch was directly behind me down below where I lived. Like I say, I wasn't there but just a short time. I kind of wish I could have stayed there because
Right. So this photograph is pretty soon after you
Yeah.
arrived in country.
I hadn't been there very
Right.
long. I don't.
Right.
I'm not.
We're going to see a photograph
Wasted
towards
away.
towards the end of your tour here in a minute. But right here, I think we have a picture coming up of that's what
That's
the
a
convoy
convoy.
looked like.
I don't know what we've got there, but we're loaded down with something, and we're going somewhere. But
Right.
I don't even know where that is.
I just want people to see an idea of what what we were talking about when we talked about the convoy with the 5-ton trucks. And then I think now there you are towards the end of your tour, and not a lot of meat on those bones. You're on the left.
No, it took me it was hard on me. I lost a lot of weight. We didn't eat very much or very often, and what you got was sea rations. It wasn't a mess hall, so.
And that's you and 2 other Texans, right?
Yes, sir. That's Jerry Smith on the right, Greg Mahoney in the middle, and myself on the left. There was another guy. There were 4 of us Texans in the same hooch. His name was Goodrich, and he was from College Station, but he was killed there. And I don't know that I even have a picture of him.
Here's a picture coming up of LZ Birmingham.
That's LZ Birmingham. That's in the Ashaw Valley.
Right.
Most people think of Vietnam as a jungle, but in the Ashaw Valley, it's mostly scrub type scenery. That's a lot deeper than it looks. I mean, if you're looking at it, it looks like that's not very deep, but that scenery is 12, 15 feet tall, so it's pretty thick, but not as lush and green as most people would think.
Right. And you mentioned the church, the Catholic church.
Yeah, that's the Catholic church in Hue.
Right.
I thought it was a remarkable building there in Hue. I don't know that exists today or not, but
Right.
it did then, and I thought it was remarkable.
Fascinating pictures. You came back in April of 1969, rank of E4. Assigned to the commanding general's office, General John J. Sutherland,
right.
at Fort Knox, Kentucky. And you pride yourself as being one of the few people that have seen the gold at Fort Knox, right?
I don't know what percentage of Americans, or how many, if you said one out of 10,000 or 100,000, but as a driver for a lieutenant general, which 3-star general, when he went there, I of course had the opportunity to go in too. And,
Right.
So I've been in it twice. I've seen the gold. I don't know how much gold there now, but there was sure a lot of gold there in
Right.
1969.
That was a fascinating tour. General Sutherland asked you where you wanted to go. You didn't want to go back to Vietnam. Spain was your first choice. He couldn't help you there, but he sent you to Holland. And then eventually, and the place you were in Holland was sort of a relay station type of thing for Vietnam, communication for Vietnam, right?
Yeah, it was shortwave radio connection, and it was all, of course, encrypted. And I was assigned there. There were 23 Americans at the Pine Kaserne in Maastricht in the Netherlands.
Right. There for 6 months, and then to a Baptist retreat in Mannheim, Germany, where you were a chaplain's assistant. Talk about that duty.
Well, we had a Baptist retreat at Berchtesgaden, which is the Obersalzberg, Hitler's retreat. And we went to the General Walker Hotel, and Major Leroy A. Sisk, chaplain, was there, and his chaplain's assistant was going home. And I met him, and we talked, and he said, "Would you be interested in being a chaplain's assistant in Germany?" And I told him I would. So I got orders and transferred from Maastricht in the Netherlands to Mannheim, Germany, and was a chaplain's assistant, which was probably the best duty that any soldier could ever have.
Like you said, people didn't mess with the chaplain's assistant.
No, they didn't. They did not.
You helped soldiers along who'd gotten Dear John letters and such like that, and it was a good humanitarian duty, which I know you liked very much. You got out of the Army in January of 1971. You had really sort of become the spiritual leader there after the chaplain had gone home. You came back to Texas, to Stinnett, Texas in 1971, went back to school, a little bit of time at Texas Tech, then Howard Payne, got your teaching degree, taught for 2 years, but then you joined the telephone company.
That's
and
right.
You did that for 27 years.
That's right. It was GTE, and
Right.
of course, which is now Verizon.
Right.
But I worked with them and had a wonderful career, worked with a lot of great people with the phone company, and have a lot of good friends and a lot of great memories of working with the phone company.
Right. I want to spend the time that we have left, about 6.5 minutes or so here, talking about the American Legion, because you are the proud commander of the American Legion, the Earl Graham Post 159 in Bryan that serves all of the Brazos Valley. Talk a little bit about the Legion and the good work that it does. I know one of the programs that you all are most proud of is Boys State and Girls State.
Boys State and Girls State. Boys State and Girls State are magnificent programs of the American Legion. This gives students the ability to go and function as a government, go and actually run for office in a fictitious city, in a fictitious county of a fictitious state, and they run for a particular office. Now, when they all get there, they don't know what office they want to run for, you know, what office it would be, but everyone has the opportunity to run for and be elected. And this past year, our two contestants from Bryan College Station not only won Boys State, but they were sent to Boys Nation in Washington, D.C.
And they were the only ones from Texas.
The only one from Texas. They
both
came
from this post.
Post 159, 6th District, and so we're pretty happy about that. The national representatives from the state of Texas.
Indeed. I know you said that you got involved with the American Legion just about, I guess, in 2006 or 2007, and one of the reasons you got involved with the American Legion is you wanted to be a part of the Honor Guard.
Yeah,
and this is something that the American Legion does and serves for people who have passed, for veterans who have passed. Talk a little bit about the Honor Guard for people that don't know what it does.
Well, the Honor Guard's what brought me to the American Legion. I believe that the service that, and I'm not speaking for myself, I'm speaking for the millions of others that have served. But when they leave this life, I believe it's altogether fitting and proper that we do military honors. And we do that regularly in the Brazos Valley. We do often 2 or 3 times a week. And it's just the process of the 21-gun salute, taps, and presenting that flag to the family.
Right.
And so that they can place that flag in a place of prominence in their home, so that people that can come later and see that this is a home that was led by a person that served his nation. Right. And that's what the American Legion's really all about, is Americanism.
Exactly.
We're political, but we're not partisan.
Right.
But that's the thing about the American Legion that I'm most proud of, is it's all about Americanism.
One thing that I know that you want to do, and is a concern, is that none of us, you, I, anybody, we're not getting any younger. Our World War II veterans are in their 80s and 90s. Our Korean War veterans are in their 70s, and the Vietnam War veterans are getting to 60 and above. And so getting younger veterans involved in American Legion is something that you're striving for, and it's a little bit of a challenge sometimes.
It is a challenge because of the generational difference between, say, the Vietnam veterans and Desert Storm. There's a long time in there. And we're going to have to adapt. The American Legion, VFW, I'm also a life member of the DAV.
Right.
We're going to have to adapt to bring those veterans inside these organizations so that they can represent the future generations that come. You know, I'd like to say that we won't be involved in war in the future, but that's not a fact of life.
Right, right, exactly.
Freedom's not free.
And another thing that I know that you all do, and as the VFW and the DAV do, is you send packages overseas to Afghanistan monthly. Care packages or packages with anything that the soldiers need, right?
Yeah, our second commander, Jerry Heights, second vice commander Jerry Heights, has faithfully been involved in sending packages overseas. We send packages over on a regular basis. And it's the kinds of things that soldiers need.
Right.
The comfort items that they don't have. You know, we got some of that in Vietnam, not very much, but I sure would have liked to have it.
Yes.
Little things like moisette towels. Somebody sent me some of those one time, and you can't imagine the comfort of washing your face off when you haven't washed your face in a week.
Especially in the conditions like you were in Vietnam,
Yeah.
which the men and women that are in Afghanistan and Iraq right now are in right now.
So a little something special to eat,
Yeah.
some just anything that they can use, we try to send.
The Uruguayan Post, I know you all meet, what, the first Thursday of each month?
First Thursday of each month. And if you're a veteran in the Brazos Valley, we'd love to have you come. We have a social hour that begins at 6 o'clock, and we eat at 7, and our regular meeting is at 8. But we'd love any veteran in the Brazos Valley to come.
Right.
No matter what generation.
You have a wonderful facility out there, and I know that you rent out the facility too at times. You have both indoor and a great outdoor patio with grills and cookouts and all of that. So it's a great facility that's over there in Bryan.
And it's available to the public if they would like to rent it.
Indeed. You and your wife Debbie are very active in your retirement. I know that I wish we had time to talk about the mission trips that you all have taken to Germany, but you remain active, and but we're out of time, and I just want to thank you for your service, not only in Vietnam, but certainly now with being the commander of 159.
Well, Tom, I want to thank you for what you do for the veterans of the Brazos Valley.
It's always a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. He served the country that he loved in Vietnam, and even though he left active service in 1971, Gary Banta continues to serve today in his retirement. He calls the American Legion, especially the Earl Graham Post 159, unique, and it is. We salute him for his brave service in Vietnam and his service today. I'm Tom Turbyville. Join us next time on Veterans of the Valley.